Hello, Big 12 Nation. How are we doing today? It is the Biggest 12, our latest episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I am your host, as always, Clint Foster. Welcome to the Biggest 12. This is a new show we're trying to grow, get going here. Obviously, you can follow me on Twitter at ClintFoster55. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you don't already, at Clint Foster Comedy. Got a lot of fun sketches going on there. Of course, mostly TCU focused during the football season, as much as that fills me with existential dread. And please subscribe to our new Big 12 channel here at Big 12 Voice of College Football, Big 12 VOCFB. That's how you can follow the show. We're on every single Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. for you East Coast elites out there watching us. Thank you so much for being with me. It is time for another installment. And today, the theme is Red River Let-Me-Die-VALRY. Not because I want the Red River rivalry to die, but because I personally want to die, because Texas and Oklahoma are both good. They're not only good, they're really good. And exactly no one else is. So you might be wondering why I'm starting out with the Rangers hat today. That's because the Biggest 12 is a show of positivity and love and good emotions. And the Rangers have made me feel lots of good emotions here lately. Winning, being in the playoffs, winning a playoff game for the first time in recent memory here. It's a good time to be a Rangers fan. Not a great time to be a TCU Horned Frogs fan. We'll see if any of my – I've invited several different folks to potentially come and talk with us tonight. We'll see if any of them happen to show up. Several Horned Frogs that I'm wondering if they want to come and commiserate with us. We do actually have some Frogs in the chat today. Oh, and some Sooners in the chat today. Welcome, friends. Very, very, very good to see everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. So let's do the show like we always do it, shall we? Let's recap the week that was. And you know what? We might as well just rip the Band-Aid off and get this out of the way. Things are not going well. Things are not going well, y'all. The offense is a mess. The offense for TCU is a nightmare, specifically the red zone offense. I can honestly, I don't think I have ever seen a TCU team struggle as much in the red zone specifically as this team does. It moves the ball up and down the field with relative ease until you get close to the 20-yard line, and it just rolls over and dies like a possum. It's abysmal. It's terrible. And that's how you end up losing to West Virginia 24-21. I know Mountaineer Paul, he was hyped about that one. Coos, several other Mountaineer friends we got going on in the chats and in the interwebs. Hey, all love to the Mountaineers, but oh my gosh, y'all, TCU had 1 yard in the third quarter. 1 yard! 1 yard in the third quarter. You can't – I mean, we won't beat Iowa State doing that. I'll tell you that much. It's bad times. I mean, you know, you can talk about a rebuilding year after being in the national championship, you know, and losing all of that talent that we did lose. But, boy, howdy, this feels like a crumbling year right now. This is not – you've lost 2 games, 2 very close games at home, 2 teams that you were double-digit favorites over. Now, we've talked about the Colorado game. We've talked about the fact that we were at a disadvantage, that we had exactly 0 hours of film to study that brand spanking new team, that, you know, every other team got the benefit of more and more film with each passing week. Also, guess what happened in that game? 2 interceptions in the daggum red zone. 2 interceptions in the end zone even, all right? And Frogs aren't going to be able to win consistently as long as they're doing stupid crap like that. But West Virginia, on the other hand, you know, and I'll go ahead and give them their props. West Virginia, things are lining up very, very well for the Mountaineers. They got a bye week this week, much needed to get healthy. They got a little banged up in that TCU game. Prayers up to the boys with the more serious injuries. Word is that they're doing pretty well. But West Virginia, they got a nice little slate ahead of them. And, you know, we'll actually take another look at it here just to remind you of what West Virginia has the fortune of dealing with going forward. After this bye week, they get at Houston. That's a win. They get home versus Oklahoma State. That's a win. They go to UCF with every passing week. That's looking more likely to be a win. Then they got BYU at home. That's the first real challenge since TCU. Go to Oklahoma. That's a very tough one. Finish out with Cincinnati and Baylor. Y'all, West Virginia, 1, 2, 3, 4-5. If I'm West Virginia at this point, anything less than, hold on, I'm a history teacher. Hold on, I got to do my math again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 4. They're 4-1. Anything less than a 9-win season is a disappointment at this point for West Virginia. And who would have seen that coming at the beginning of the year? 9-win West Virginia, 9-win Western Virginia, our favorite part of Virginia, everyone. That's for all you Mountaineers out there. But 9 wins. Neil Brown ain't going anywhere, baby, if they do that. He's not going anywhere. And can you even imagine? There's a very real world now in which West Virginia can back its way into the Big 12 championship. And you better believe if that happens, because you know it's going to be against Texas or Oklahoma. You know it's going to be. We'll talk more about those two also, Rams, here in a little bit. But man alive, I feel like just about everybody on this daggum show is going to be blue and gold with bells on, man. We're going to be drinking moonshine. We're going to be burning couches. We're going to be all out there for you, okay? You got to win one for the rest of us if that ends up happening, okay? Go forth and prosper. Be fruitful and multiply. I don't know if that applies in this context. But, man, it could happen. It really, really could happen. And West Virginia should be so very hyped about it. So very hyped about it. Let's see who we got. Jackson, I don't disagree with you. Well, State game, we could be in some very real trouble. No doubt about it. A lot of people just saying what's up in the chat. Tim, hey, congratulations, bro. It's exciting times in Morgantown. Exciting times. And you're right. Nobody thought it. I mean, hey, I will say after that Penn State loss, which looked better all the time, I was like, oh, hold up. West Virginia, they're not bad, you know, and we talked about it on the show last week with Mountaineer Paul when he was in here. I mean, it wasn't going to be a game that TCU ran away with. I was expecting West Virginia to cover the spread and us to kind of get out of there with like a 10-point win. You know, I think my exact prediction was 35-24. I mean, you know, if only our offense could put up 35 points, right? Man, this feels like vintage TCU football where it's like we got solid defense that keeps us in the game and an offense that's just absolutely anemic. Long road ahead, buddy. Long road ahead. Well, thank you, Tim, for the kind words. I'm sure we will be back. Whether we'll be back this year, I mean, we got to get off the schneid this week. I know that. We got to get a win in Ames against this Iowa State team. If you can't get a win against this Iowa State team, you got big, big problems. Okay, Jackson, perfect timing. Yeah, we got to talk a little bit about UCF, another team that is oh my gosh, such a world of hurt. Such a world of hurt. Okay, here's the thing. You never allow a comeback in a game that you're up 35-7 with 15 minutes left to go, right? You especially don't want to allow that scenario against this Baylor team that has shown virtually no promise whatsoever, right? I think UCF, it's, you know, we always want to count our blessings, right? At least I'm not a UCF fan. This is a rough first go around in the Big 12. I mean, my goodness. Losing to Kansas State, ain't nothing wrong with that. Losing at home to Baylor when you're up 35-7. Ugh. And I mean, I don't think you can't blame that on John Rice Plumlee. You know, I mean, UCF has been perfectly serviceable without John Rice Plumlee. Your defense has, you know, how do you give up that many points in that short a time? It's shocking. It's shocking. Okay. Can continue the momentum on Saturday versus Tech. We'll talk about it. I don't really foresee it. The Butt Bowl could be interesting this year, but I don't know if it's going to be that interesting. Love ourselves a good Butt Bowl. But yeah, man, UCF, questions abound, right? I think suddenly, arguably the most confident fan base coming into the Big 12 is now really having to ask themselves some hard questions, right? What is going on down there in Orlando? Okay, yeah, Devil Frog. Hey, what's up, Devil Frog? Good to see you. Looking like Orlando was about to miss the flight back to Waco. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you do end up losing that game 35-7, you probably are getting left on the tarmac. And I mean, we talked about this in the past. What a change. And I'm hoping that this isn't some kind of karma coming back on me with TCU, you know, because we've talked about Baylor. How do you go from the Sugar Bowl to one of the worst teams in the conference in 2 years, right? Hope to God that that's not us in a couple of years, right? But I mean, this is just a dramatic, whatever the opposite of a turnaround is, right? Turn for the worse, turn terrible. It's bad, all right? Not good to be Baylor right now. Not good No, but I say that UCF, so it's okay, right? Baylor's okay, but man, not good to be UCF right now. Not good to be UCF at all. We should mention BYU, right? I don't have a BYU hat. I don't have a Cincinnati hat, but very solid win at home by BYU over Cincinnati. Cincinnati put up a lot more fight than I was expecting them to in that game, to be completely honest with you. I got to watch a good bit of that game, and BYU looks solid. They look solid, BYU team. Caden Slovis slinging the ball around. They've got a strong defense. Tell you what, that's not a game I'm super confident about right now as a TCU fan. I don't think if I'm a West Virginia, I think if I'm a West Virginia fan, that's the next game on the schedule that I got really circled to be like, that's going to be a battle. You know, BYU, they could very easily finish top half of the conference. Will they get into the Big 12 championship? That would be a shock. But they could very easily finish top half of the conference. Here we go. The Gus bus has always been a bumpy ride. That's a shout out to UCF. Yeah, well, they're definitely experiencing that right now. Okay. So, Jackson, we will get to that. And let's go ahead and get to it right now. Let's talk about Kansas. We wanted it, man. We wanted it from them. We wanted them to pull off the upset. They didn't do it. Mostly because Jalen Daniels went out hurt. And, I mean, this is becoming a pattern, right? That Jalen Daniels, he's one of those guys, super athletic, but a little bit fragile at the end of the day, right? And now the question is, this is where things get interesting because UCF opportunity to rebound and potentially get schedule. There's not a whole lot of easy ones on the schedule. Apologize. I think my internet is being a little funky today. But maybe this one in Lawrence is it. We'll talk about it. But let's talk about that Texas game. Texas looked good. Texas looked real good in that game, man. And you hate to see it. You really hate to see it. Texas has an outstanding defense. Best defense in the conference, I think it's very easy to say. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders, especially after Jalen Daniels went out. Kansas just was not up. And all credit to Texas. Texas was not looking. We said, is Texas maybe going to look past Kansas, be thinking about Red River? Is Texas going to be taken for granted that Kansas got the better of them in recent years? They absolutely were not. All right. All credit to those kids. All credit to the coaching staff. They came out ready to play. They did what they had to do. They doubled up Kansas. I think it was, 40-20 or something? I mean, good grief. It was authoritative, right? Almost as authoritative as Oklahoma's win over 40-14, 40-14. And that's a ranked opponent. Kansas isn't, it's not Kansas of our past, right? This isn't your brother's Kansas, right? This isn't your Kansas that you remember, not Orange Bowl Kansas, but literally any other Kansas. This is a top 25 Kansas. They deserve to be ranked in the top 25. It's a solid team. And Texas absolutely took them to the woodshed. Iowa State, similar situation. I'll tell you what, Iowa State is a team with problems. This is a team that is in need of some serious help. And Oklahoma impressed me in that game. They truly did. Up until this point, I've been saying, I don't know if Oklahoma's for real. Sure, they put up 73 points on Arkansas State, but that's Arkansas State. I mean, they only beat SMU 23-11 or 28-11, whatever that was. They haven't been overwhelmingly impressive. It took a defensive struggle to beat Cincinnati. Defenses looked good, right? But I'm like, is the offense up to snuff? Are they going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the top half of the conference? This game changed my mind, man. Scoring as many points as they did in the first half of that game. Let me look back at the stats, actually, see exactly what that was. So the final score, of course, was 50-20, and they called off the Dogs early in this one. Yeah, it was 40-20 at halftime. 40-20. Iowa State ain't that bad, man. That is a symptom of Oklahoma doing what they're supposed to do at home, right? Coach P with TCU, he used to always say, you win the games that you're supposed to win, you do what you're supposed to do in the games you're supposed to win, and the big games take care of themselves. Well, that's exactly what Oklahoma did against Iowa State. They They absolutely pounded them in the first half, completely called off the Dogs. and Iowa State did not register a single point in the second half, ended up winning 50-20. That impressed me. And that's setting up for a very classic heavyweight Red River, which is just nightmare scenario for the rest of us who just really wanted to send Texas and Oklahoma out of this league without having even sniffed the championship game. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, right? But, you know, we can't always get what we want. Try sometimes, we get what we need. Let me catch up on some of these comments here. Let's see. All right. So Faith lives in Los Angeles, lives and dies by the SEC by virtue of Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. Girl, what are you doing in here? Hey, we welcome all stripes at the Biggest 12. Again, this is a place of love, but, you know, I have a lot of nice things to say about those places, right? This isn't an SEC show. It's the Biggest 12. But, you know, happy you're here, Faith, and, you know, happy to have, you know, some representation on the West Coast. I lived in LA for 3 years. It's a wonderful place if you take away all of the taxes and crime and general malaise. But I have a lot of friends out there. So we had fun living out there when we were living out there. Hope that my internet's working a little better. I'm seeing some of the comments about face freeze. We were having some issues. I think the router reset itself, so hopefully we're coming through loud and clear right now. Let's see. Yeah, here, Joey. Welcome, Joey. Good to see you, friend. Crazy football season indeed. Everyone thought Texas Tech and TCU were the teams to beat other than UT and OU, but not, man. You know what? That's why you play the games, though, man. That's why you play the games, and you can't eat the cheese, okay? Because if you eat the cheese, you get caught in the trap. And I don't think that TCU's necessarily been eating the cheese. I think that we just have some deficiencies that we haven't quite figured out yet. I think Tech might have eaten the cheese. I really do. I think they might have bought into the hype a little too much, and now they're finding out, right? But, man, it's truly nightmare scenario for us true blue Big 12 fans who are really hoping to see Texas and OU go out, you know, Texas to die as it lived in the Big 12 the last 15 years where they've been essentially irrelevant minus one season. And, you know, Oklahoma keep them out one last time. I mean, you know, it's a long season. Things could still happen. Texas could still drop a couple of games they're not supposed to. Oklahoma could lose. Maybe something happens, right? I mean, and our best hope at this point is that one of us others, right? Maybe it's Kansas, maybe it's Kansas State, maybe it's BYU, maybe it's West Virginia, maybe it's TCU. I mean, we have one loss in conference. Maybe we could turn things around. One of these other teams gets into the Big 12 title game and has an opportunity to knock Texas or Oklahoma off of that throne. That's our best hope right now. Double Frog, what you got to say? TCU offense has to develop a go for the jugular mindset. It's been years since we've seen a high octane O, but at least this one has the makings of one. Well, yeah, there's talent. There's talent, and not every play call is abysmal. I mean, truly. It's just whenever we get into the red zone, I was talking with one of my friends actually about this, and I was hoping that he might join us tonight. One of my friends who's a high school football coach. He's the offensive coordinator here in Fort Worth, and we went to college together. And he's like, when I look at TCU, like the biggest issue I see is there's no offensive identity, right? They don't know what it is exactly that they want to be yet. And it's like you've got pieces, but there is no go-to receiver, right? Amani Bailey shows flashes, but we don't ride him as much as probably we should. Chandler at times is hesitant to run when he should be more willing to pull the trigger on that because he's very effective with his legs, and then he second guesses himself on throws. It's like he overthrows receivers a lot. He's been very inaccurate, and sometimes he looks like he's more worried about throwing an interception. Okay, here's the deal. Sometimes he's throwing it right into players' hands, and then he overcorrects, right, and is trying to avoid throwing interceptions so he makes poorer decisions, right? There's a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. And the offensive line got manhandled against West Virginia. Manhandled. I should put my hat back on as long as I'm commiserating and griping about the Frogs. Y'all got to bear with me. This is a part of the Biggest 12. If you're going to have me hosting this show, you're going to hear me talk about the Frogs, okay? No matter how bad we're doing. Offensive line got completely manhandled. And this is all credit to West Virginia as well. We were talking about last week with Mountaineer Paul, that West Virginia offensive line may be one of the best in the Big 12. And that defensive line ain't shabby either, right? And they took it to us up front. We were manhandled. Less so on defense, but definitely on offense. And we were really feeling the loss of Brandon Coleman in that game. Brandon Coleman, one of our tackle guard combo linemen, very good player for us. His void was missing big time. And I'll tell you who else. No one is talking about this. Steve Avila, who was our best offensive lineman last year, arguably one of the best offensive linemen in the entire conference, playing for the Rams right now. his presence or lack thereof is being massively felt this season. Massively felt. We're just not moving guys and protecting the quarterback like we ought to be. Buddy, I'm trying to keep up with these comments, but I'm so glad that y'all are all here. This is so exciting. I love simulcasting. Very fun stuff. Okay, let's get back on track. We talked about Texas. We talked about OU. We talked about TCU and West Virginia. Okay, what else we got on the docket? Let me see. Let me look back at these old games. Look at my notes here. We talked about Baylor and UCF. Yes. Let's talk about Texas Tech a little bit. We'll put the cowboy hat on. Texas Tech won a game that, boy, howdy, if they didn't win, then you're going to be really worried in Lubbock. Beat Houston. That's the worst team in the conference. There's no conversation. Houston has problems. They have big problems. And if you can't win a game against Houston, then what are we even doing here, right? So Texas Tech got a much-needed victory, get some confidence in them heading into the Butt Bowl week, and beating old Southwest Conference rival who, Houston can never do anything against Texas. Even in years when it's like, hey, Houston might be able to put up a fight against Texas Tech this year. It doesn't happen, right? Even if Houston's getting – So Texas Tech gets the much-needed win against Houston. Dana Holgorsen, I still believe, has the hottest seat in the Big 12 right now. If I'm a Houston Cougar alum, if I'm a Houston Cougar fan, I am like, get rid of Dana as quickly as possible. He cannot get rid of him fast enough, especially with how bad their offense has looked this year. Yeah, H-Town fans need a vodka and Red Bull to get through this season. Can you even imagine? Man, can you even imagine? They're definitely sipping on Purple Lean. They got to be. I mean, you got to be hallucinating a little bit if you're going to enjoy a Houston Cougar game right now. My good grief. All right. So Texas Tech wins. And I got the cowboy hat on. So let's go ahead and talk about next week. Let's talk about the most anticipated, the most storied rivalry in the Big 12 happening this coming week in the state of Texas. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Butt Bowl. Yes. Baylor versus Texas Tech. BUTT, the Butt Bowl. This is the one we're all excited about, right? This is the one everybody in the whole national media, they're talking about a big Big 12 rivalry, the biggest Big 12 rivalry, I might even say, in the state of Texas that's happening this week, the Butt Bowl, okay? Now, who comes out victorious? That's the real question. Well, both of these teams have really not lived up to expectations, okay? The Butt Bowl is going to be a little stinkier than usual this year. Let's just put it that way. I believe it's still at a neutral site. I actually need to confirm that. They've been playing it at Cowboy Stadium the last several years. I actually need to confirm that that's still the case. No. Okay, it's back to home and home now. So Baylor is hosting, okay? It's in McLean State. Oh, man. The Butt Bowl is in the toilet bowl. Can you believe it? The Butt Bowl is in the stadium that looks like a toilet that empties into the Brazos. It's as if it was written in the stars. How beautiful and wonderful. So this is what college football is all freaking about, man. If you can't get excited about the Butt Bowl being played in a stadium that looks like a toilet seat by a river that is usually brown, you need to find another favorite sport. All right, because this is where it's at. This is what we are here for. This is what we pay good money to see. Okay, this is what we devote our time and our energy to, and we allow it to affect our moods on Sundays and Mondays. All right, this is what it's all about. Okay, so, and yes, you're right, random Michigan fan in the chat. The Big 12 is not good this year. It's a shame, though, that this not good Big 12 champion happened to beat your undefeated Big 10 champion last year, though. Just saying. Okay, so the Butt Bowl. Who wins? Okay, give me some predictions in the chat. I'm going to give you some information. It is Texas Tech is favored in this one, -1. Okay, that's literally as close to a push as Texas Tech is a 1-point favorite in McLean in the Baylor Texas Tech game. I tend to agree. I think that this is, we've had some Texas Tech Baylor games in the past that got very funky. This one has all the marks of a funky game. And if you like ugly football, if you like me are a Cheez-It Bowl 2018 appreciator, then you should probably tune into the Butt Bowl this week because something funky is going to happen and it's going to be ugly and nasty. And, whoever wins is going to be on something weird. I think Texas Tech will win just because I think that they've got more talent. I mean, they're both coming off of wins, which is good. Texas Tech was well, I don't know. Actually, I mean, I said that Baylor's was more impressive just coming back from that many points down. I don't see them replicating that. I think Baylor comes down to earth again after that big UCF win. I think Texas Tech wins this one. They're on a 2-game winning streak, feeling good about themselves. It's going to be weird. Let's call it. I really want it to be something funky. I mean, I'm sure this is shooting way on the under, but let's just say Texas Tech wins 13-12. They cover the spread. They win 13-12. Weird stuff has happened to get us to this point. Okay. But that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Let's hear some others, y'all. So we got, let's see, Texas Tech 35, Baylor 24. I mean, yeah, that sounds more right. Now, hey, if you're Senpai, then you're hammering Texas Tech, right? Bet the mortgage, bet the life savings on Texas Tech covering that over if you're Senpai, all right? 35-24, really going past that -1 favorite there. Joey, what do you think? Taking Baylor in another comeback. Oh, okay. Just kidding. You can't just. I can't read it if I got to read ahead if I'm going to do that. Okay, Texas Tech will win by at least 10. I can see that. Texas, they should. It's a question of, what's Baylor feeling like after that UCF game? They're at home. They're playing a rival, right? Have a little confidence behind them. Tech just looks more talented. I do think that I could see a world where they win by 10. Okay, let's see. I love that spelling of Baylor, like a hey Baylor. I'm going to say Baylor wins by 17. Tim, you're going to have to defend that one. Man, you must think Tech looks really bad in order. I guess you did watch Tech in that West Virginia game, so maybe that's what he's drawing off of. West Virginia beating Tech in that sloppy one up there. Lots of people taking Texas Tech in the chat. Okay, all right. That's what I'm feeling too. I'm thinking Texas Tech wins that one. Okay, here we go, though. Should have done this one first. Friday night, we got Oklahoma State and Kansas State, okay? Now, this line may surprise you. It surprises me a little bit. Kansas State is obviously favored, okay? But they're only favored by 12. Okay, that surprises me a little bit. I know it's being played in T-Boone Pickens. It's being played in a stadium with extremely shallow sidelines, people banging paddles behind your head. Let me tell you what, it is not fun to play in a game as the opposing team. It's fun. It's very fun to go to T-Boone Pickens as an opposing fan. I have had a lot of fun going there as an opposing fan, even in 2015 when they derailed our season. But that is not a fun stadium to be in when you are a part of a team. Not fun at all. But Oklahoma State is no fun to watch, right? They're really bad this year. They're a mess. I was actually talking to one of my students today who's an Oklahoma State fan. And he's just like, we have to get rid of Gundy. We have to, but I don't know how you go about doing it, right? They're in a very similar situation to what TCU was in the twilight years of Gary Patterson, where it's like, this guy is a favorite son. He is, the history officially at this program. Just aren't clicking anymore. We got to move on from him. How do you go about it? And one of the things we were talking about today actually is just Oklahoma State has an additional issue where it's like, who do you attract to come to Stillwater? When TCU was ready to move on from Gary Patterson, of course, we didn't look very far down the road, but DFW is an inherently more attractive place to come and coach because you got a fertile recruiting ground right here. It's a great place to live, metropolitan area. Stillwater ain't that, right? So it's easy to get a Gundy there because he went there. He loves it. He understands the culture. He loves the community, right? What kind of a new coach are you going to attract? That's a very difficult question. But here's our question today. I would be shocked to see anybody in the comments picking Oklahoma State. I don't see anyone saying Oklahoma State is going to win right now. Okay. All right. So the question is, how much does Kansas State win by? All right. Because I still think that Kansas State is a very good team. I still think that Kansas State has a great opportunity to play for a Big 12 title this year. But they have not looked as impressive as I have hoped, right? They're still question marks with this team. Are they going to be able to win by more than 12? Give me score predictions. I see Kansas State. They've had a bye week to figure themselves out. Missouri is way in the rearview mirror at this point. Okay. They got that UCF win under their belt. I think they cover the 12-point spread. Let's say that they win. You know what? Hey, let's go. 45-21. That's what I let the spirit move me. Just 45-21. That's what I think. Kansas State wins 45-21 on Friday night over Oklahoma State. Joey, 38-17. Baylor's going to magically sneak into T-Boone Pickens, but they'll put up 17 points on Oklahoma State's behalf. Yeah, I can see that. So Jody thinks they cover as well. Okay. Oh, okay, Jackson. Cowboy Nation is definitely divided on the issue of Mike Gundy. I mean, how could you not, right? I know a lot of TCU fans who really trashed the decision to move on from Coach P. And, from an outside perspective, and, you got your nostalgia goggles on and thinking, especially like older fans, like, I'm somebody who was a TCU fan in the WAC years, in the Conference USA years, but I was too young. I was just a little baby during the Southwest Conference years. But there's a lot of my family and friends who are like, we've lived through some terrible TCU years, and we were there every game still and just suffering through it in the 70s and in the 80s when we were cheating and not even good at it, right? And so from that perspective, you're like, this is the best we've ever had. How do we know that it can get any better than this? We don't want to let him go. But, I mean, you've got to look at the results. You've got to look at, if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'm like, you got to look at the fact that literally all of your best players entered the transfer year. All of them. And you potentially could have more people transferring this year. And Gundy is a coach, not unlike Dabo Swinney, who is very averse to the transfer portal, very averse to NIL. And you can't just close your eyes and pretend like this stuff doesn't exist, right? This is the nature of the beast now. And you either get with it or you get left behind. All right. And that was a huge factor, I know, in Jeremiah Donati's decision to hire Sonny Dykes, because he's like, this is a guy who understands NIL, he understands the transfer portal, and he is very active in using both of those things, right? If you cannot do that, there's not a place for you in major college football. And I truly do hate to advocate for people to lose their livelihoods and lose their jobs. But if I'm Oklahoma State, you got to have that tough conversation. It's just not working. It's just not working. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Joey. Please hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. You know what to do. It's YouTube. Come on, baby. Let's grow this show. Let's grow it. Okay. History. Okay. See, John, what do you think? History says take the under, but last year's game was a massive beatdown. As long as Kansas State gets the W and no injuries, I'm happy. Well, shoot. Yeah. I mean, as long as you win in this era of college football, a win with no injuries, that's about all you can ask for. But I personally think Kansas State covers that 12-point spread. I think Kansas State can be the face of the conference next year. Well, I hope not, because I want TCU to be the face of the conference next year. I mean, Kansas State is in a good position to continue to be one of the top dogs. Certainly, they got I would argue probably the best coach in the league in Chris Klieman, and they've got a good thing going. If they're in the Big 12 title game for a second year in a row, yeah, they're going to be one of those faces. I don't think that the Big 12 is the type of conference that really lends itself to having one face, especially with Oklahoma and Texas moving on. But Kansas State is absolutely going to be one of those teams that's in the mix every year. As long as Klieman's there, I don't know how they couldn't be, right? He's got a really good thing going, good culture up there. Len, you ask a great question. Why are so many players transferring away from Oklahoma State? You got to ask yourself that, right? It probably has something to do with the culture with the head man there, right? And whenever that stench of losing gets on you, and whenever things start going south, a lot of people start getting more and more irritated with little eccentricities, right? And things that Gundy has maybe been able to get away with in the past, but you're still winning 10 games, 9 games, 11 games, right? But when that's not happening anymore, suddenly the atmosphere becomes more toxic. Right. And people are like, and in this era of college football, you don't have to sit around and wait through it. Right. Let me go find a better situation. Right. Let me go find a better situation. Thank you so much, Jackson. Yes, please do subscribe to the Voice of College Football. That's where you're going to find this show every single Tuesday. The Big 12. So please don't forget to subscribe. Actually, I'll throw this up here again. Okay. So next game, I'm taking Kansas State, taking the over. All right. They cover the spread. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Kansas. To me, this is a very interesting game. Kansas at home. We mentioned it briefly earlier. Hosting UCF in Lawrence. Kansas is a 2.5-point favorite. I do not have definitive news on Jalen Daniels. In fact, I'm going to look some up right now. I feel like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Bean is going to be the starter. Now, he's not completely incapable, but he's serviceable, but he's no Jalen Daniels, right? Let's see. Jalen Daniels injury. Okay. He has missed practice. He missed Monday practice due to his back injury. So I would probably go ahead and label him as questionable for this game. And honestly, if you're Lance Leipold, if you're Kansas, you're hoping that maybe you can escape this game with a win without having to play him. Okay, so Kansas is a 2.5-point favorite. UCF, they can put up points, right? And they put up a good fight against Kansas State. They looked really great against Baylor until they just big fat didn't, right? Can UCF get off the schneid here? All right, let's look back at their schedule, actually. So far, they have beaten 56-6. They barely squeaked out that win against Boise State, the big heroic kicker, whose name happens to be Boomer. 18-16, they beat Villanova in a runaway game, lose to Kansas State 44-31, lose to Baylor 36-35. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Okay, afternoon game in Lawrence. UCF pulled it off. They can put up numbers. You know, I'm talking myself into this. I feel like UCF actually might be able to win this game. Kansas maybe a little bit beat up coming off of that game. Well, not maybe. I mean, they're losing Jalen Daniels. But so here's something. Whenever you play a really physical team, because I used to see this whenever I was equipment manager at TCU when we were in the Mountain West, and we were exceptionally physical team, right? Almost always, and those were like those peak Gary Patterson defenses. Almost always the teams that we played would lose the following week, right? Like it even happened with like when we played Utah one of Rose Bowl year, we just absolutely beat the snot out of them. And they were playing a Notre Dame team the following week that was a very winnable game for them because they were like a top 5 Utah team, and they laid an egg, right? Just because they were just physically beat up, right? I could see a world where Kansas they're coming off of the intensity of that Texas game, the physicality of that Texas game, and UCF can sneak in here and get one. Here's the big question, is whether or not John Rice Plumlee is going to be available for that one. Okay, Tim, you're saying Kansas wins by 3. They cover the spread. Okay, that's about what Vegas is thinking. And I mean, that's what should happen, right? That's what should happen. I'm just trying to figure out a world here where UCF can get that first Big 12 W. John Rice Plumlee. Let me see what we got here. Could UCF see the return of John Rice Plumlee versus Kansas? This was 7 hours ago by the Orlando Sentinel. Thrilling visual medium right here we got going on. So I apologize for that. Okay. September 9th, knee injury. Okay, let's see. Okay, so as of 7 hours ago, Gus Malzahn says, we'll see how he is. He hasn't gotten any 11-on-11 reps since he got hurt. He did get some 7-on-7 last week, so we'll see how he looks. Timmy continues to improve in many areas. This is the backup, so we'll probably make a call on Wednesday. Okay, so we won't know until tomorrow. But theoretically, based on that comment, if John Rice Plumlee doesn't play, it's because they're still fairly confident in this kid McCain, who, by the way, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, has put up pretty comparable numbers to what John Rice Plumlee was doing. Okay, so you know what? Life is short. I want to pick UCF to win this game. UCF gets that first Big 12 win at Kansas, a beat-up Kansas team. Joey agrees with me. Look at you, Joey. You know what? We might actually be related. This will be like Kansas last year, possibly. Their run is over. Lost last week, losing this week. UCF 41, Kansas 31, a 10-point win. Woo, man. Yeah, okay. I can see it. I think – so here's what I think. I do think it'll be high scoring. I am seeing 38-35 UCF, okay? Big win for the Knights, okay? Big win for the Knights. Oh, back to the Oklahoma State conversation. Jackson. Kane Womack should be the next head coach at Oklahoma State. I always say if you can't beat him, hire him. Yeah, well, you know. Why the heck not? Yeah. And he's also saying that Kansas beats UCF. I mean, they're favored. They should. Kansas should beat them, but I can see a world, and I'm calling it. All right, y'all go ahead and keep the receipts and remind me next week. I think UCF wins this game. I think this is when they get off the schneid. Okay. So let me get our next game pulled up here. I guess it's time. I've put it off long enough. Got to talk about the Frogs. Got to talk about the Frogs and our return to Ames. I seem to have misplaced my hats. Okay. So Frogs going to Ames. This is a game I was originally hoping to try and make it out to. I'm not going to be able to, unfortunately. I'm going to have to watch it on TV like a schmuck. Iowa State, by the way, if there's any Iowa State people in the chat, that's the only stadium of the original Big 12 schools I have not been to yet. I've been to every other one, have a good experience at every other one. I'm very much looking forward to the day that I get to go up to Ames and experience that tailgating scene and those, by all accounts, great fans up there. So the Frogs are a 6.5-point favorite against Iowa State. All right. This is a game that you absolutely should win. There's truly no excuse if you do not win this game as TCU, right? Now, West Virginia was another one that, like, hey, you're supposed to win this game, but West Virginia is actually pretty good. I mean, we were talking about it last week. We could see a world where West Virginia, if they do this, this, and this, of which they did all of Paul's keys to the game, all of my keys to the game, TCU did not do. All of Paul's keys to the game, West Virginia did do. West Virginia wins the game, right? If TCU loses this game, they've got serious problems, right? We need to – I don't even know what you do if you lose this game. But 6.5-point favorite. It's weird because that line feels a little small to me. Just based on what we've seen of Iowa State this year, it feels like TCU should win this game by more. But then again, we've had the red zone struggles, and it's kind of like you got to show me, right? There's only so many times I can say, well, this is what's supposed to happen. You just got to show me. Joey, you foul human being. Okay, yeah, reverse it. I would love if TCU beat Iowa State 48-3. Then I'm starting to the hype train's coming alive again. Okay, we're gonna be all right. I don't think it's gonna be that easy. If it is, then we're feeling good again. Then we've gotten things right. But I think it's gonna be more like I could see 35-10. Maybe. What did we beat Houston by? Houston was like 35-13. Yeah, maybe 35-10, 35-17, right? Something in that region. I think we covered the spread. We should win that game. I mean, but we've got very serious problems on offense, right? We don't have an identity. We don't have the ability to score in the red zone. Griffin Kell even is feeling like a little bit of a head case. I love that kid to death, right? And he has been awesome for us in the past. But man, he was 0 for 3 against West Virginia. Now, granted, we didn't necessarily put him in a position to succeed. 2 of those kicks were over 50 yards, right? And one of them he just kind of pushed. But you get 2 kicks blocked, right? I mean, 2 of those kicks were like barely over the offensive linemen's heads. That's not in character for him, right? We need an authoritative win against Iowa State to kind of get some confidence back and get this train moving in some semblance of the right direction. Hopefully that happens. Let's see. Happy to be in a conference where the better DFW school is. Yeah, imagine being in the ACC. Can you even? Hilarious. Okay. Nobody's really. No one wants to put themselves out there. Nobody wants to make a prediction on TCU Iowa State. Come on, hey, one of y'all, give me the Cyclone Larry. Give me the Iowa State's gonna win treatment. Hey, it wouldn't be the first time. Shoot, Mike Campbell's beating us. Well, let's see. We lost Matt Campbell in 2020. We lost in 2019. 2019? Yes, 2019, 2020, 2021, I think. Yeah, so Matt Campbell's beaten TCU before. TCU by 10. Yeah, I could see that. I really could see that, Senpai. We win by 10, and then I'm just feeling equally dismal going into the following week. I mean, this schedule, things were supposed to be so different for us this year. I had such high hopes. August Clint, just that sweet summer child, he was just so sure that the schedule was set up where we're going to gradually ramp up the difficulty of our opponents. We're going to be able to figure things out, bring the new guys along. There's just so much talent on this team. That's what I kept hearing from everyone. This team is so talented. It may even be more talented than last year's team. Yes, we had stars on last year's team, but there's so much talent this year. And I went out to practice, as you do, and I was like, man, I'm buying into it. I'm believing the hype. And man, 3-2, here we sit. And really needing to look impressive against Iowa State, of all people, in order to make me feel any kind of confidence moving forward. Oh, Tammy, you're so late. Where you been? Couldn't get off work in time? We predicted that Kansas State's going to cover the spread. Your Wildcats. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Kansas State-Oklahoma State coming in Friday night. Okay, take the over TCU -10. Okay, yeah, there we go. So thank you, Jackson. Thank you so much, Jackson, for hyping us up. Please do subscribe to the Biggest 12 here on the Voice of College Football's Big 12 channel. Thank you very much to Mark Rogers for inviting me to the family. So happy to be here. All right, well, we've put it off long enough. It's time to talk about them. Let's talk about the two best teams in the conference, right? The Red River rivalry is this, easy for me to say, the Red River rivalry is this week. Well, can I just say, by the way, whenever they stopped calling it the Red River Shootout was a very sad day in America, okay? That game should be called the Red River Shootout. It's too perfect. Usually it's a high-scoring game. It's taking place in Texas. It's exceptionally Western of a name. Why isn't it called the Red River Shootout? Can we please just, grow up and call things by their proper names? I think people aren't even calling the world's largest outdoor cocktail party the world's largest outdoor cocktail party anymore. What are we doing? We used to be a proper country. What is happening in America? Oh, man. Jeez. Okay, so Red River rivalry is this week. Texas and Oklahoma. Texas very well may be the best team in the country this year. I mean, Georgia sure didn't look good last week. Now, I'll tell you, it's hard to go undefeated. You're going to have missteps, and I still think that Georgia is the most talented team in the country. But as far as who's looked the most impressive week in and week out, it's hard not to say Texas. It's really hard not to say Texas, okay? And I just hate it. And y'all, that tastes like vinegar coming out of my freaking mouth. But Texas may be the best team in the country right now. And Oklahoma, like I told you, that Iowa State game made me a believer. I have not been a believer all year on Oklahoma as far as Oklahoma's concerned. And I think they're for real. So now all of a sudden, we've got a vintage Red River game, two very good squads, conference title implications on the line, playoff implications on the line. Man, ESPN is just going nuts over this one. Okay, so Texas is a 6.5-point favorite in this game. I'm anxious to see what you think. I have been saying this all day. I was saying this yesterday. I got my students are asking me, other teachers are asking me, what do you think about this game? What do you think about this game? I think Oklahoma wins this game. And this isn't because I am, okay? Y'all should know this. I am a hater. I'm a certified hater when it comes to Texas. But Oklahoma is for real, man. That defense has looked very good, and Oklahoma's offense has looked very good. And here's the X factor, all right? Because these are both very good teams. Texas, yes, they beat Alabama. Granted, I think this is probably one of the worst Alabama teams in the last decade. Their quarterback play is not very good, right? Their offensive line is not quite up to Alabama standards, I don't think. Oklahoma's coming into this game pissed off, right? Lest we forget, Oklahoma lost to Texas last year 49-0. All right. If you think for a minute that Oklahoma has been thinking about anything other than getting back on the right side of this Red River game for a year, buddy, you are kidding yourselves. Oklahoma is going to be hyped. Brett Venables is probably – that whole Oklahoma facility is probably layered in bulletin board material. People talking about Texas is back. Texas is one of the best teams in the country. Texas is playoff bound, all of this stuff. You just better hide and watch. Oklahoma is going to play spoiler this weekend. I'm calling it, okay? Oklahoma is going to win this game. Now, does that mean Texas won't be in the Big 12 championship? Ooh, national championship. Freudian slip. I hope that doesn't happen. Does that mean Texas won't be in the Big 12 championship? Not necessarily. I still think Texas would be my favorite to end up in the Big 12 championship at the end of the year. I think Texas is a little bit more complete team than Oklahoma. But when you're talking about rivalry games, right, at a neutral site where both teams are very good, it's going to come down to that edge of motivation. And I think Oklahoma is going to be extremely motivated going into this game. That's my personal take. Let's see what y'all are thinking. Okay. So blip, 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 blip. Okay, Tim. Horns down by 5. I think by some weird shenanigans happening on the field. Okay, so you're thinking Texas wins by 5. Okay, so then you're thinking Oklahoma covers, Texas wins. Okay, yeah, I could see that, right? Texas is the favorite in this game for a reason, right? They're, like I said, they've looked like one of the best teams in the country so far this year. It's a young season. All right, we're 5 weeks in. Texas has looked like arguably the best team in the country. Okay. Felt like in the preseason we were going to see a Texas-Oklahoma Big 12 shot. People say what they're going to say in the preseason, okay? People in the preseason have been picking Texas to win the Big 12 ever since 2005, and they haven't done it, right? Since 2009, okay? Texas has been trashed for 15 years, okay? Of course, people were picking Texas in the preseason. I needed Texas to prove it. So far, they have proven it, right? But I think that they lose this game this week. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat here. Let's see. Yeah, come on, y'all. Nobody's making any predictions. I see all of y'all out there. Come on. Don't be scared. Don't be shy. Senpai, what you think? Rooting for OU, but I think Texas by 3. Okay. All right. I'm the only one with brass ones. I'm the only one who's willing to say that Oklahoma can win this game. Y'all hide and watch. I think they will. Okay. I think they will. Jackson, I actually thought OU would win the Big 12 in the preseason. Okay, Jackson. Well, you didn't tell me. All right. You didn't tell me. But that was a good call. I mean, that's a good call because really after last year and the way last year went with Brett Venables, I was like, Oklahoma might have a long road ahead without Lincoln Riley. Shows how much I know. Okay. What do you think, Joe? I want OU to win since West Virginia plays them, but I doubt it. Texas 35, OU 28. Okay. All right. Okay, Joe. OU 28, Texas 27. Now there's a barn burner for you. Yeah, I think OU's got a little extra juice coming into this game. You know, you don't lose 49-0 to your biggest rival the year before and not bring some juice the next year. And I mean, it's not like these guys are going to stop playing, but there is a little added oomph to it being the last Big 12 installment of this game. I really see OU pulling through. This game might be physical for both teams with unfortunate injuries, and both teams will expose each other for films. Well, yeah, that's true. Both things are probably true, Tim. Yeah, good call. Well, y'all, that's us this week. We got West Virginia on a bye. We've got Cincinnati on a bye. We've got several byes this week, but we've gone through the games. We'll see how they turn out. Just to recap it for you. My picks: Texas Tech in the Butt Bowl. UCF winning the upset at Kansas. TCU getting back on the right track on the road against Iowa State. Kansas State covering the spread in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. That's a 12-point spread. Kansas State covers. And Oklahoma upsetting the favored Texas Longhorns in Red River. Okay, there we go. So this has been the Biggest 12. Thank you so much for joining in. This has been our biggest audience so far. That's so exciting. Thank you all so much. So you know what the next step is. Don't just watch the show and then not come back. Come on, man. We're trying to grow this show. Please subscribe, okay? Become a member of Voice of College Football family. Please subscribe to Big 12 VO CFB right here on YouTube. You're going to be here for the show every single week. It's Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. for you East Coast elites, okay? And then also, please subscribe to my personal channel at Clint Foster Comedy, right? That's where you're going to see all of my sketches. During the football season, it's very TCU heavy, but I always feature West Virginia fans. Y'all know this. I always heavily feature a representation of the school that we're playing that week, and I've started adding in some little quick hitters after the credits. So Baylor got a shout-out. Houston got a shout-out, or shout-down, I guess. UCF got a shout-out. So tune in, TCU fans, during whatever game is happening that week. And then when the offseason rolls around and I get a little more time on my hands, I do a lot more realignment theme stuff. Lots of scripts in my backlog that I'm going to start filming the more time I have. You just gotta be patient with your boy. I'm a high school teacher. I coach middle school football. I have a wife, right? There's a lot of demands on my time, but I try to do the most for y'all, all right? It's all for y'all, and I'm thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of the experiment. Subscribe, like, share, spread the word. Love y'all so much. Thank you, Big 12 Nation. We're going to go ahead and send us out on this one. So, y'all enjoy the week of games coming up. Horns down. Unboom the Sooners. Big 12 forever. I love you all. Okay. Have a good one.